What is this cafeteria woman trying to say? The elderly woman who worked in the cafeteria was made fun of by our president, Jack Taylor, and the department head, Julie Taylor, who had come for a factory inspection. In actuality, you've been doing anything you want. You cannot claim that you have forgotten my face. The old woman removed her headscarf and spoke authoritatively as she addressed the two of them. It was a former president's dignity. The time has arrived to stop the father and daughter from being abused. The several instances of misconduct were revealed at a board meeting. It was determined that Julie would be fired for disciplinary reasons and Jack would be dismissed. The next president was named Lucas. The route to an unanticipated happiness was what had once appeared to be an unjustified demotion. Lucas York is my name. This year, I turned 33. For the first 3 years after joining, I performed a lot of menial work in the General Affairs Department at the headquarters of a company that manufactures precise equipment. But as I accumulated experience, I began to take on increasingly significant tasks, such as maintaining contracts, negotiating contracts, and getting ready for shareholder meetings. I was elevated to deputy department head last year. I can see myself becoming a department head if everything continues to go well. Although I've been concentrating on my profession, I met a woman 2 years ago, and we began dating after a buddy introduced us. We are thinking about getting married and have a relationship where we both understand each other's work. It was during the annual personnel change period that I was summoned to the president's office. Julie, the female director of the General Affairs Department, was also there when I walked in. Lucas has consistently exceeded our expectations with his work. Yes, in fact, your efforts are deserving of praise. Jack has only one daughter, Julie. She began working for the company 3 years ago, and after only 2 years in the General Affairs Department, she was elevated to department head. She rarely works and is the first person to leave the workplace after work is finished. During business hours, she is frequently spotted using her phone. However, no one has been able to speak to her, because she is the president's daughter. I've been taking up her incomplete responsibilities and making up for her errors ever since I was hired. It was never done out of selfishness, but rather for the benefit of the business. You've been on my mind. Do you want to accompany me out? I assumed I was being brought in to talk about my job. I was taken aback by the abrupt admission, so I was careful to say no. I'm really sorry, but I have an important girlfriend. Julie's gaze, which had been filled with smiles only minutes before, now became icy. Are you even aware of my identity? I am the daughter of the president. Your future as president is assured if you wed me. I believe promotions should be earned through merit. After these words, Julie stormed out of the room in a fit of rage. Jack lightly nodded his head toward me, signaling me to leave. At that time, I had no idea that this would be the turning point of my fate. From that day on, Julie completely changed her attitude and began treating me coldly. However, my daily life in the General Affairs Department remained as busy as ever. Despite the overt harassment from Julie, I had no choice but to quietly get through my work. Julie began pointing out even the smallest mistakes I made and scolding me loudly. Lucas, the date on this contract is 1 day off. Do you plan on ruining the company's reputation with such a basic mistake? It had been my responsibility to manage contracts since my early days as a new hire, but suddenly, I was ordered to review all the contracts with a strict deadline. The extra work added to my regular duties stretched well into the night. Julie, I finished reviewing the contracts. Well, that's late. It's already past closing time. Why did it take you so long? The window outside was already dark, and the lights in the department were barely on. And this checklist. Why aren't you using the format I specified? Do it all over again. But Julie, this is the format you approved yesterday. What? I don't remember approving that. Are you calling me a liar? Realizing that excuses wouldn't work, I silently took the materials back. The next day, I was up all night working again, but Julie was still dissatisfied. This is totally unacceptable. Come in first thing tomorrow morning and redo it. Once again, I ended up staying late at the office. With my late hours at work, I had to cancel plans with my girlfriend multiple times. I'm sorry. Looks like I'll be working late again today. It's okay. Hey, just focus on your work. I could sense the loneliness behind her kind words, but for now, I had no choice but to focus on my work. One day, I was put in charge of preparing for the contract renewal with a major client. I carefully prepared the documents, drawing on my past experience. This is an insult to the client. The documents were thrown onto my desk. I can't trust you with this contract renewal. I'll handle it directly. Hand over all the documents. Julie, I've been in charge of this project up until now. Honestly, you're not cut out for this. I've already discussed it with the president. In the end, the long-time projects I had been handling were taken away from me, and instead, I was burdened with the department's menial tasks, copying, sorting documents, even fetching tea. Despite my position as deputy department head, I was treated worse than a new hire. And then came the final blow, a sudden summons. When I entered the president's office, both Jack and Julie were waiting for me with stern expressions. I called you in because I need to talk to you. Recently, there was a harassment complaint. Harassment? A female employee claimed that you touched her inappropriately. There's no way I would do something like that. I was speechless at this completely baseless accusation. There's evidence. The security cameras clearly show it. That's not possible. We have irrefutable proof. There's no way to talk your way out of this. Normally, this would lead to immediate dismissal, but considering your long years of service, we'll give you a lighter penalty. Starting tomorrow, you'll be transferred to the factory in the east. I was told of the sudden demotion with no chance to protest. Later, I would find out that this false accusation was orchestrated by Julie. The security camera footage was also fabricated by her. Lucas, next time, make a wiser decision. Turning me down was foolish. These were her parting words on the day I was demoted to the factory. Anger welled up inside me at this unfair treatment, but I knew that getting emotional wouldn't change anything. I clenched my fists and silently accepted the demotion. 2 weeks had passed since I was transferred to the factory. The work I was assigned was mostly simple office tasks, but I tried to find meaning in it. Are you the new guy? What's your name? It was around this time that I was approached by an elderly woman in the cafeteria. She must have been quite old, but she was so lively that calling her grandma felt unnatural. I don't know who started calling her that, but her name was Nancy, and everyone referred to her as Mom. My name's Lucas. I was assigned here today. Lucas, you've got to eat a lot, okay? Young guys like you need energy. With that, she served me a large helping of food. While working efficiently, Nancy always greeted the employees with a warm smile. The main tasks in the factory office were answering phones, ordering supplies, entering data, and managing documents. All simpler than the work I did at headquarters, but I understood they played an important role in supporting the factory's production lines. How's the work going? It's a bit of a rural place, but it's a nice one, right? Every day at the cafeteria, Nancy would casually chat with me. Her kindness made me gradually open up. 2 months after being demoted, a new employee was assigned to take over for a woman going on maternity leave. My name is Lily. It's a pleasure to meet you. Lily, who greeted me with a soft demeanor, seemed like a truly wonderful person from the start. Lily asked me to show her around the factory, and I agreed to take her on a tour. This is amazing. Little parts are being assembled one after another, turning into a finished product. Lily's eyes sparkled as she watched the conveyor belt in the work area. Do you like factories? Yes, watching small parts come together to form a big product is really exciting. Her pure passion made me rethink my approach to work. I had started to find new meaning in the simple tasks I once thought of as mundane. You've been looking a lot better lately. Really? Must be thanks to Lily. That girl's hardworking and a good kid. Nancy's words made me smile. Without realizing it, it was true. Lily's presence had added color to my life at the factory. One day, Lily approached me. Lucas, I think we can make the inventory management system more efficient. Her suggestion was spot on, and I used my experience from headquarters to work with her on improving the system. Through this process, I found myself recalling my former self and her earnest attitude toward work. Lucas, Lily, you two are doing a great job. The new system we created together greatly improved the overall efficiency of the factory. Word of our success even reached headquarters. Thank you, Mom. For what? For giving me hope. What had started as a demotion to the factory had now opened up new possibilities for me. It was thanks to my meeting with Lily and Nancy's encouragement. On a sunny, gentle morning off, I was taking a walk with Lily in the nearby park. Our relationship had grown a bit closer, and we had started spending our days off like this, just relaxing together. There was a small shopping street in the town next to the factory, always bustling with locals on weekends. Lucas, that bakery over there looks good. Yeah, it does. Maybe we'll buy something during our break next time. Sounds good. I want to recommend it to Mom too. In casual conversations like this, the topic of Nancy would always come up, without either of us intending to bring it up. That's how important Nancy was to both of us. Life at the factory was fulfilling. The inventory management system that Lily and I improved was adopted by other factories, receiving high praise from headquarters. On my way home from working the weekend shift, I ran into Lily at the grocery store. As we were talking, I heard a familiar voice. You two out on a date today? We turned to see Nancy smiling at us, holding a shopping basket. Mom. No, it's just a coincidence today. Doing some shopping? Yeah, just picking up ingredients for tomorrow's prep. After chatting for a while, we said our goodbyes to Nancy. Then Lily spoke up. Mom's always so kind. Yeah, she's like everyone's mom. You and Mom, it's like you're really her son. It feels so natural. Those words made me stop in my tracks. The truth was, I had lost my own mother when I was very young. When Lily learned this, she looked apologetic, but I smiled and shook my head. No, maybe you're right, I muttered. That and we parted ways for the day. One afternoon, on a day off, we were walking along the riverbank in a place far from the noise of the factory. We talked about work and our dreams for the future. I used to work at a different factory, but it went bankrupt. That must have been tough. Yeah, but I'm really glad I got to work here. Her smile made me naturally smile back. What had started as a demotion to the factory now felt like something I should be grateful for. Did you make this curry, Lily? It's delicious. While eating the curry that Lily had made, Nancy smiled kindly. Thank you. It's a recipe Lucas taught me. No, it's definitely better than mine. As the conversation between the three of us flowed, I felt a sense of happiness. Right now, the environment I was in was more fulfilling than the position or power I had at the headquarters. At dusk, the sunset visible from the factory's rooftop was beautiful. Lucas, this view is amazing. Yeah, the factory bathed in the sunset is quite a sight. As we stood there, the two of us watched the town turn golden in the setting sun. I wished this moment could last forever. But just as I thought that, something unexpected happened. We received sudden notice of a surprise inspection from headquarters. The news of the inspection brought tension to the entire factory, and this time, Julie would be joining the visit as well. I was tasked with showing the factory to the visiting party. When I greeted the president and his group at the factory's front entrance, Julie's cold gaze pierced through me. Oh, you're still here? I thought you'd quit by now. He, in charge of the factory's office work, scoffed. It doesn't seem like you've learned your lesson." It seemed like both she and the president still held a grudge against me. I kept my composure as best as I could, guiding Jack and Julie while explaining the current state of the factory. As we were discussing the improvements in inventory management and work processes, Julie suddenly interrupted. "Are you sure trying something so ambitious at a rural factory won't just lower efficiency?" "No. Actually, productivity has improved by 20%. "Oh, well, it's not good to deceive with numbers." It seemed Julie was just looking for flaws. I corrected each of her criticisms one by one. Finally, I took them to the employee cafeteria, where Nancy greeted us with a smile. However, Julie looked around the cafeteria with a sneer. "What an old-fashioned cafeteria. Are you sure the hygiene management is up to par?" Lily offered the menu to Julie, but she didn't even try to take it. "I can't eat in a place like this. Dad, let's go to a fancy restaurant nearby." "Yeah, the food here probably doesn't suit our tastes." The employees, taken aback by Jack and Julie's rude behavior, couldn't hide their discomfort. Without caring about the atmosphere, the two of them quickly left the cafeteria. As they were about to leave, Julie whispered in my ear, "Even though you were demoted because of harassment, should I let everyone know your true nature?" She then stopped in front of Lily and gave her a look from head to toe. "Are you a new employee? You better be careful. This guy has a habit of making advances on women. Lucas isn't like that." "Oh, have you already been tamed? How pitiful." Julie laughed loudly, and Jack covered his mouth, trying to hold back his own laughter. The two of them left the factory. Left behind in the heavy atmosphere, we silently returned to our work. That evening, I was called to the factory manager's office. "There's been a directive from headquarters. We need to revert the inventory management system to the previous method. But the efficiency is clearly better. I'm sorry, but this is an order from above." Julie's cruel treatment didn't end there. For the reason that the factory's expenses were higher than necessary, the budget was drastically cut. Additionally, due to an unfair performance evaluation, the factory employees' bonuses were also reduced. "Lucas, don't worry about it. But this happened because of me. I'm so sorry for causing trouble for everyone. This isn't your fault. That father and daughter haven't changed a bit." Nancy's words seemed to carry some deeper meaning, but at the time, I just took them as words of comfort. A week after Julie's inspection, we received new instructions from headquarters. A team would be sent to scrutinize the factory's operations, and Julie was appointed as the person in charge. On the first day of the audit, Julie demanded a large number of documents. "I need the past 3 years' worth of expense reports, inventory management tables, and work logs. All of them." "Oh, okay. I'll get them ready. I need them first thing tomorrow morning, and make sure you include detailed explanations for each one." Her requests seemed impossible, but with Lily's help, we stayed up all night preparing the materials. However, when we submitted the documents, they were all sent back. "This is completely unclear. You need to make it more understandable." "But Julie, if we add more details..." "Oh, the new employee is speaking up. I'll find you a more appropriate job." From that day on, Lily was assigned to inventory checks in the warehouse. Working in the uncooled warehouse with heavy labor was too much for someone in her office job. "Lily, let me take over." "No, it's okay. This is part of the job." As I watched Lily working hard, wiping away sweat, my chest tightened. I needed to help Lily, I thought, but I couldn't come up with a good way to do it. In the meantime, Julie presented even more demands. She ordered that all factory supplies be re-inspected and that the usage history and future usage plans be submitted by the day after tomorrow. "Julie, this deadline is..." "Can't you do it?" "Then I'll have no choice but to report to headquarters that there are problems with the factory's management system." With Julie's unyielding attitude, I had no choice but to continue working in silence. Around that time, unsettling rumors began to spread among the factory workers. There was talk that the factory might be shut down. Lucas, you need to be careful. Don't overdo it. I'm fine. I'll manage somehow. Lily, you should rest too. But neither of them had any time to rest. Julie's demands increased day by day. I wonder if this factory is really necessary. It's such a waste of labor costs. Her words seemed to hint at the possibility of the factory being shut down. The employees' anxiety only grew. Amidst this, a new blow came. Dad, isn't it dangerous to leave a habitual harassment offender in the factory? Yeah, we should move Lucas to another place. The suggestion of further demotion made me feel hopeless. But just then, Nancy stood up. What do you think you're doing? Oh? Are you the cafeteria lady trying to say something? It looks like you've been doing whatever you want. Her voice had a level of authority I had never heard before. Nancy took off her apron and turned to face Julie. I won't let you forget my face. In that moment, Julie's face turned pale. Jack also had a look on his face as if he had seen a ghost. A tense atmosphere filled the cafeteria. Nancy's voice was clear, different from usual. I made the mistake of trusting you, the former executive, and handing over the president's position. No. Why are you here? Jack's face was ashen, and he was trembling. Ignoring Jack, Nancy turned back to face Julie. You've certainly been doing whatever you want, haven't you? I've received a report from someone trustworthy at headquarters who's investigated you. What do you mean? Dad, say something. Julie seemed unable to grasp the situation, shaking Jack's shoulder. But Jack remained silent, sweating profusely. Nancy, having removed her bandage, stood with an air of authority. The factory manager rushed over. I'm so sorry. I was told to keep quiet about this matter, even to you, the former president. Former president? Those words caused a stir in the cafeteria. I couldn't follow the conversation unfolding in front of me. Nancy was the former president? I can't believe it. While I was still processing this, the conversation kept moving forward. I'm calling a board meeting tomorrow at headquarters. You? I don't know who you think you are. Former president or whatever, but you don't have the authority to do that. Julie seemed desperate to regain control of the situation, but Nancy remained completely unshaken. The title of chairman is there for moments like this. With those words, Nancy pulled out a stack of documents. The documents contained evidence of Jack and Julie's wrongdoing, pressure on human resources, improper budget allocations, creating false harassment accusations. I have all the evidence. You've tormented the factory workers, driven out capable employees, and tried to make things go your way. Using the company for personal gain is something that will never be tolerated. Wait, please. Let's talk this over. It's too late. Letting you two run the company was my mistake. In front of the suddenly revealed former president, the president and his daughter stood there, powerless. Lucas, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to drag you into this. No, I'm just surprised. I didn't know you were the former president, and I've been talking to you like we were friends. I'm just the cafeteria mom. But thanks to that, I've seen the true nature of this company. I've also come to understand the feelings of the people working at this factory. Nancy smiled gently and gave me a light pat on the shoulder. The next day, an emergency board meeting was held under Nancy's command. The misconduct of Jack and Julie was revealed one by one. This company stands because of the efforts of each and every employee. A management that tramples on that is not needed. The board members couldn't go against Nancy's authority. By resolution, we've decided to dismiss Jack and dismiss Julie for misconduct. The downfall of the president and his daughter was decided in an instant. And for the new president, I would like to nominate Lucas. The sudden nomination left me at a loss for words. I believe you're the one who can lead this company in the right direction. Knowing the history, the board members had no objections, In fact, there seemed to be growing expectations for the new leadership. The day after the emergency board meeting, under Nancy's order, an all-employee meeting was held in the large conference room. The employees gathered, and Nancy stood on the stage. "I have an important announcement for all of you. Yesterday at the board meeting, we decided to dismiss Jack and fire Julie for misconduct." As the room buzzed with chatter, Nancy continued, "Also, we've decided to appoint Lucas as the new president." The sudden personnel change caused a ripple of shock among the employees. "I will support the new president as chairman. However, this is a transitional measure. I want to entrust the future of this company to the younger generation." Called up to the stage, I nervously began speaking as I faced the crowd. I was previously demoted to this factory for unjust reasons. However, working here, I learned the true value of manufacturing. The room went completely silent. At this factory, every single part is carefully assembled to become a reliable product. That process contains the sincere efforts of every employee. Lily, sitting in the front row, nodded quietly. "I want to build this company just like a product, piece by piece, with care, with all of your help." As I finished my speech, there was a huge round of applause from the audience. "Now, there's another important announcement," Nancy revealed. She exposed the various wrongdoings orchestrated by Julie. Unjust personnel decisions, the private embezzlement of the budget, and the false harassment accusation against me. The full truth was presented with evidence. "These actions are a grave betrayal to the company. We are considering legal action." Anger could be heard from the employees, but Nancy continued, "But this is not the end. In fact, it's a new beginning." True to her words, the company began to change drastically. The inventory management system that had proven successful in the factory was rolled out company-wide, and operational efficiency skyrocketed. The unfairly reduced bonuses were also brought back to the proper level. "Lucas, congratulations." "Thank you. It's because of you that I realized the value of this factory." "Well then, we've got a mountain of work to do. Let's get started." Nancy, who had supported me in my role as president for a while, said, "You're good now," and returned to work as the cafeteria mom. She kept the title of chairman, but continued to listen to the voices from the ground. Thus, the story that began with an unjust emotion entered a new chapter. 3 months after the transition to the new system, one holiday morning, Lily and I were looking for a new place to live. Having moved to the headquarters, we decided to find somewhere with a better commute. "How about this apartment? It's really nice. I think we'll be able to see the sunrise from the balcony." While touring the apartment, we couldn't help but feel excited about our new life together. In fact, just recently, I had confessed my feelings to Lily and proposed to her. Today, Nancy was once again smiling and chatting with the employees. "Are the wedding preparations going well?" "Yes, we're working on it together. I'd really love for you to attend the wedding." "Of course, but on that day, I'm not wearing the headscarf." We all laughed together. The fact that such a normal, happy daily life had become our reality was the most fulfilling thing. "For our wedding, we'd like to ask you to sit at the same table as my parents." "Me? Are you sure?" "Yes, to us, you're like real family." "Thank you. I also think of you two as my own children." Her words brought warmth to my heart. I never imagined that the demotion I once faced would bring me such happiness. "All right, Lucas. From now on, I'm leaving everything to you," she said. At those words from Nancy as the chairman, I straightened my back. 6 months ago, I was appointed as the new president, but I had to wait for the ceremony to confidently stand before everyone. Finally, the day of my appointment ceremony arrived. 6 months after the dismissal of the Taylor family, the company had successfully turned things around. Thus, the story that began with a demotion was now entering a new chapter. The setbacks I had faced in the past had now become valuable lessons. By continuing to move forward, unexpected happiness awaited me. It was truly a story that taught me the wonders of life. The wrongdoings of the Taylor family were reported to the police through a forced investigation. A series of large-scale embezzlements and illegal fund transfers were uncovered. Julie, after being ousted from the company, started looking for another job. But the bad reputation from her previous position spread, and she faced rejection from every company. Clinging to the image of once being an executive at a prestigious company, her savings ran out, and she was forced to move from her apartment to a cheap one. Evidence was found that Jack had been complicit in Julie's embezzlement, and he was arrested. During the interrogation, past wrongdoings were also uncovered. He was now in a situation where prison time was inevitable. After her father's arrest, Julie was abandoned by her relatives and fell into complete isolation. Her former arrogant attitude turned out to be her downfall, as no one was there to offer her help. The court issued a summary order demanding a large sum of compensation to be paid. Having lost all social credibility and being financially cornered, Julie now made a living through day labor part-time jobs. She was now forced to work in an even harsher environment than the factory workers she had once looked down on. At the end of her fall, Julie realized her mistakes. Her arrogant personality and distorted values had led to her own ruin. 6 months had passed since I became president. The business reforms at headquarters were steadily progressing, and employee morale was rising. "Lily, are you going to make something special for dinner this weekend?" "Of course. It's your birthday, Lucas." Lily had transferred to the General Affairs Department at headquarters and had become the perfect partner, both in work and at home. "Should we invite Mom too? It's such a special occasion." "Yes, I'm sure she'll be really happy to come." Nancy, the cafeteria mom, was still working in the cafeteria. Though she kept her title as chairman, it seemed that she truly enjoyed supporting the employees up close in her role. "Kids need to eat a lot. Here, eat some more." "Mom, we're thinking of having a dinner party this Saturday at our place." "Oh, that sounds lovely. Should I cook for you?" The same lively voices could still be heard in the employee cafeteria, continuing to protect and nurture the company, which Nancy loved like her own child, helping it grow. That was my mission and my pride. Closing a poor student's account. For example, if you're upset, leave this place. When you are a valued customer, return. George, the bank employee, grinned smugly as he said this while wearing his uniform. I thought what a manner he could have fun. I felt that canceling my account was very harsh. As I considered my options, I devised a cunning scheme. "All right, I'll go quietly. But could you maybe check one thing for me before I leave?" "What?" "Okay, hold on. What?" After showing George the transaction cannot be processed screen from the ATM, I gave him my bank book and showed him the balance. George counted the zeros over and over, his face going white. I started preparing my next move in the interim. You can call me Alex Weston. I was going to move out on my own this summer after being accepted to my first-choice university. It's both thrilling and nerve-wracking to leave the house I've called home for more than a decade, but it's a necessary step on the path to freedom. Back in high school, I had made the decision that when I started college, I would leave my uncle and aunt's home. More over 10 years ago, my parents died in a vehicle accident. My uncle and aunt took me in because my grandparents were too elderly to care for me. They treated me like their son because they didn't have any children of their own. I was able to mature and become an adult because of them. They made time out of their hectic schedules to assist me whenever I was having trouble with my coursework. They did everything in their power to defend me when I was made fun of at school for not having parents. I am incredibly appreciative of them for taking care of me for a longer period of time than my parents ever did. A little early, but I want to thank Beth and Robert for everything. I sincerely appreciate the way you brought me up. On the day I got my letter of acceptance, I thanked them. Thank you, Alex. Being a parent for 10 years was a blessing. You've developed into a wonderful young man, and I can now inform your parents with pride. But in the summer, you'll have a lot to get ready for. You know, you can always return. Remember to give us a call occasionally. I'll send you anything you require." I felt a little ashamed when Beth wiped her tears with a handkerchief and grieved, even though it wasn't a final goodbye. But looking back, I realized I underestimated the reality of independence. I was shamefully unprepared for the responsibilities of daily life, as Robert and Beth had always handled them for me. I had no idea that preparing to live on my own would involve so many complicated tasks. From the moment I got my acceptance letter, I was buried under a mountain of things to do: insurance registration, opening a new bank account, and so on. "Let's arrange for your tuition and fees to be deducted from your account, Alex. You should open a university account to manage your expenses and tuition separately." Once I found an apartment, I had to set up utilities like water, electricity, and gas. I also needed to buy furniture and appliances for my new place. I cursed my naivety for thinking I could relax now that the exams were over. Having rarely visited a bank before, everything felt completely new. I didn't even realize I needed to open an account, which became a funny anecdote. Can I just use my student ID instead? I was used to managing small amounts of pocket money or digital payments on my phone, so the thought of handling large amounts like tuition was terrifying. I felt so nervous that my hands trembled, knowing I couldn't afford to make any mistakes. But since I was about to live on my own, I had to learn to handle transfers and payments myself. Until I got used to it, I planned to visit the ATM during quieter times when attendants were available to help. It seemed I wasn't the only one. This time of year, many students starting their solo lives were using banks for the first time. Most of the attendants were kind and patient, which was a lifesaver. But no matter how kind the majority might be, there are always exceptions. And I happened to meet one of those exceptions. Wow! I sighed at the nearest ATM corner. It was the 15th of an even-numbered month, and the ATM corner at Horizon Bank was packed. Being new to all this, I had forgotten it was pension day, which meant long lines at the ATM. To make matters worse, it was also the 5th and 10th, adding to the congestion. Some people were rushing in during their lunch breaks, creating a tense atmosphere. Adding to the tension was the ATM attendant, George. Coming here on such a busy day. Of course, it's crowded. If you don't know how to use a machine, come back when it's less busy. George's name tag was visible as he yelled at an elderly customer who seemed unsure of what to do. Without sparing a glance at the disheartened old man, George continued managing the line with little care or courtesy. His unhelpful attitude made me consider leaving. But I cooled it. I had forgotten an important payment, and today was the deadline. Overwhelmed by the flood of tasks, I had completely lost track of time. Since I would be out all evening, I had no choice but to make the payment now. Feeling cornered, I reluctantly joined the back of the line. After waiting nervously for a while, my turn finally came. I swallowed hard, trying to calm myself. George gave me a glance that seemed to say, "Can't this wait?" making me even more uneasy. Telling myself I've done this before, I inserted my bank book and card into the machine. I carefully checked each step, worried about accidentally sending money to the wrong account. This slow, cautious process must have annoyed the people behind me. Meanwhile, George had been pacing behind me, making his presence impossible to ignore. Not done yet. The attendant leaned in to peer at my screen, making it hard to concentrate. "Could you not look at my PIN? Please, if you need assistance, feel free to ask. It's quite busy today." I turned around and found George standing so close that I could feel his breath. His words were polite, but they essentially meant, "Hurry up." Feeling flustered, I accidentally pressed the wrong button and had to start over. George's movements distracted me, and I made several more mistakes. "Are you a student? There are plenty of customers waiting behind you. If it's not urgent, Why don't you come back later? The sudden comment startled me as I focused on the transaction. Looking back, George's face clearly showed annoyance. The politeness he had earlier was completely gone. His attitude now made no attempt to hide his irritation, leaving me stunned. It's really frustrating, you know. People who don't know how to use the machine show up at the busiest times and hog the ATM. I bet your mom handled everything for you until now. While it was true that I hadn't done much on my own before, I'd just been a high school student buried in studies every day. At my age, it wasn't unusual to be unfamiliar with ATMs. Ignoring George's muttering, I finally managed to finish my transfer. I felt like I deserved a pat on the back. Hurry up and stop dawdling. Let the next person go. As I tried to put away my receipt and bank book, George kept pestering me. The ATM's anti-forget alarm beeped repeatedly, sending me into a near panic. I wanted to yell, "I'm putting things away as fast as I can." But my bag zipper got stuck, and my wallet seemed to disappear into thin air. "Don't rush me." "Wait, what are you doing?" "My card is still." Before I could finish, George shoved me aside. I hadn't retrieved my card yet. As I reached out in desperation, I let out a cry of despair. After the time limit expired, the ATM swallowed my card. Staring at the machine, I froze in disbelief. George glared at me with narrowed eyes. This is why I can't stand slowpokes. You don't even have much money in your account, yet you act like an important customer. Once a card is swallowed, it's a hassle to get it back. Apparently, retrieving a swallowed card required identity verification and paperwork. Getting scolded out of nowhere left me panicked and embarrassed. But then it hit me. This wasn't my fault, was it? If anything, George's rushing and shoving caused the mistake and made me leave my card behind. The realization cooled my head, and George's angry rant started to look ridiculous. He was probably trying to pin the blame on me to avoid acknowledging his own mistake. Go to the counter and handle the paperwork. While you're at it, why not close your account too? What's that supposed to mean? I couldn't help but ask. Closing the account of a poor student like you. Get out of here. If you're upset, come back when you're a high-value customer. Sure, I was an inexperienced student, but even I knew this wasn't how a customer should be treated. It was obvious that George chose who to respect and who to belittle based on his own biases. Anger welled up in me. Understood. I'll leave quietly. But before I go, could you check something for me? What? Fine. Wait. What? I showed George the merciless message on the ATM screen. Transaction cannot be processed. Then, I placed my bank book on the screen. Seeing the balance, George froze, mouth agape. Let's just say the number of zeros in my balance was 6. This situation, where I can't access my funds, is your fault. Since the amount is significant, I'll consult my guardians and return later. I made sure George saw both the ATM screen and the bank book, ensuring he understood that his actions had caused a millionaire customer's funds to become inaccessible. A high-value customer. Why? How? You're just a student. Why does your account have such a large balance? Sadly, it's my inheritance from my parents and grandparents. Since my parents died in an unexpected car accident, I received their life insurance and compensation. Later, when my grandparents passed away peacefully, I inherited their assets through legal succession. My grandparents had been relatively wealthy, which left me with a balance not typical for a student. My uncle, who is an attorney, not only took me in and raised me, but also managed my assets as my legal guardian. Now that I've turned 18 and legally become an adult, we decided that I would start managing those assets myself as I head to college. All the overwhelming paperwork stems from that decision. Having completed the transfer, I figured there was no risk of losing the card if the bank held on to it. Leaving George, who was still flustered, behind, I returned home. Since my uncle happened to be home, I told him everything that had happened. Following my uncle's advice, I sent a formal complaint about my experience to Horizon Bank. That very same day, the branch manager called to apologize. Please let me visit with George and offer our apologies in person. They made the offer, but I declined. He clearly underestimated me because I'm a student and treated me unfairly. I don't want someone like that knowing where I live. And honestly, I don't even want to see him. Even so, we need to return your card. It would be a burden to ask you to come in, so please allow us to deliver it to you. I'll come and pick it up myself. The branch manager was likely under pressure from higher-ups. They were quite insistent. As I went back and forth on the phone, my uncle, Robert, who had been listening, gestured for me to hand it over. This is Alex Weston's legal counsel, Robert Weston. Ah, yes, that's correct. The branch manager's shocked voice was audible even from where I stood, but my uncle, a seasoned professional, quickly resolved the situation. Soon enough, it was agreed that Robert and I would visit the bank to retrieve the card. When we arrived at the bank, we were immediately escorted to the reception room and treated with the utmost respect. While my uncle seemed used to this, I, who had been just a high school student until recently, was overwhelmed by the intimidating atmosphere. My heart wouldn't stop pounding. My sincerest apologies for my failure to properly train our staff, the branch manager said, bowing deeply. Meanwhile, George stood there with a sullen expression, only giving a slight nod. That wasn't an apology. It was a mere gesture of acknowledgement. Even I, inexperienced as I was, could tell the difference. Was this his usual attitude toward customers, or was he just having a bad day? After looking into it, we found that George had repeatedly exhibited this behavior toward customers. We were aware of occasional complaints, the branch manager admitted. According to him, working as an ATM or lobby attendant involved learning a lot of detailed procedures. Since the job also required dealing with increasingly demanding customers, turnover was high. With staff shortages already a problem, losing a permanent employee would be a big issue, so they often hired part-time workers through temp agencies. George, despite being a temp worker, had been at the bank for over 5 years. His knowledge of policy changes and operational details made him reliable in many ways. However, his moodiness and tendency to lose motivation after criticism were major drawbacks. The branch manager admitted he often struggled to manage George. Occasional complaints. Mocking someone struggling with a task and assuming a student must be poor. Doesn't that go beyond occasional? I asked. You're absolutely right. I had no excuse, the branch manager said, wiping the sweat from his brow and visibly shrinking. Yet, George hadn't even spoken up. He was just staring off into space while his boss kept apologizing on his behalf. He clearly had no intention of taking responsibility. What did you say? You're just a student. Stop it, George. You're cleaning up your own mess. Apologize properly. Though I had spoken more forcefully than I intended, it was still the branch manager who kept apologizing profusely. Meanwhile, George pressed his lips into a tight line, looking like he might snap back at any moment. Fine. The account balance shows he's not poor. That part was my mistake, he finally said. But he didn't earn that money himself, so what's with the attitude? Giving a kid this much money. What kind of parenting is that? No wonder things like this happen. When he finally opened his mouth, those were the words he chose. I felt a rush of blood to my head. A person's private assets have nothing to do with your disrespect, my uncle said calmly, continuing to make unjust insults in front of me. An attorney is not a wise choice. With that remark, the air in the room froze. Even George, who had been acting so brashly, went quiet in the face of my uncle's authoritative presence. Also, weren't you peeking at the ATM screen from behind? My uncle continued. Using your position like that, whether or not you actually stole the pin, It would be hard to deny if someone accused you of doing so. At those words, both the branch manager and George turned pale. And let's not forget, you forcibly shoved this boy away from the ATM before he had even retrieved his card. On top of that, you loudly declared he was a high-value customer for anyone nearby to hear. My uncle continued his verbal assault. Though usually calm and gentlemanly, once angered, he would unleash the full weight of his legal knowledge to corner his opponent. I knew just how intimidating that could be. From both a privacy and security perspective, this is highly regrettable. If personal information were leaked, well, there's no choice but to take action, he said. After all, some might share George's belief that it's inappropriate for a student to hold significant wealth. Why was I starting to sweat, even though I wasn't the one being scolded? The tension was palpable. For George and the branch manager, who were directly responsible, this must have felt like a nightmare. Between the insults to this boy, the matter of peeking at his PIN, and everything else, we have many grievances, my uncle said. But we're not looking to escalate this unnecessarily. How about we settle this with a sincere apology from George and by changing the PIN? Does that sound fair? His tone was gentle, even cheerful, but his words were ruthless. He was essentially saying that if they didn't apologize properly, he would escalate the issue and report it to the relevant authorities. As a temp worker who had both peeped at a customer's PIN and inadvertently disclosed the wealth of a client, George was in a precarious position. And the branch manager, being responsible for managing him, was equally at risk. At minimum, the two of them would face severe disciplinary action. In the worst case, they might lose their jobs. If it escalated to a lawsuit, the fallout would be devastating. I deeply apologize for my actions as a bank employee. Please forgive me, George muttered. Seconds later, both he and the branch manager offered a sincere apology for the inconvenience. Later, the branch manager sent a formal proposal for corrective measures to my uncle's law office. Among the listed measures was George's reassignment, which made me chuckle despite myself. Apparently, the incident was widely shared among the bank staff as a cautionary tale, leaving George in an awkward position. The branch manager, who had long struggled to deal with George, decided not to renew his contract after considering this incident and his past behavior. To prevent retaliation against me, George would be employed until the end of his term, but the temp agency had already been informed. In effect, he was being fired. At over 50 years old, George, who had caused trouble at his placement, would likely struggle to find another assignment. Even if he did, it would probably come with significantly worse terms. As a temp bank employee, he must have enjoyed decent pay, which made this all the more unfortunate. My uncle speculated that George had begun to confuse the prestige of the bank with his own standing, leading to this downfall. Apparently, this happens more often than one might think. As for me, I wasn't spared from my uncle's scolding. Flashing your bank book like that, even to a bank employee, was careless, he told me. And I couldn't argue. It was a hard lesson learned. Since then, I've changed my pen and am preparing to move into my new apartment, so I'm reasonably secure for now. My uncle also advised me to open several accounts to diversify risk and comply with deposit insurance limits. By the way, I noticed you've been avoiding it, but online banking is pretty convenient. You wouldn't even need to visit the bank in cases like this, and you wouldn't have to deal with rude staff. No way, more applications. I couldn't help but groan. After this flood of paperwork, I couldn't bear the thought of more forms. According to my aunt, things have gotten much easier in recent years, with more processes digitized and simple applications available online. I couldn't believe it. See? Putting off tasks because they're a hassle is what led to this mess. Once you set it up, it'll save you a lot of time and effort. For managing expenses, I recommend debit cards over credit cards, by the way. Listening to my uncle's cheerful explanations, I collapsed face first onto the table. It seemed my endless journey through bureaucratic hell was far from over. You are merely the accountant's wife. It doesn't give you the right to act in such a haughty manner. I once received an invitation to a politician who happens to be one of our most significant clients' birthday parties. On the other hand, his son Sean approached us as soon as he noticed my wife and said, "Hey, let me take your wife for a while." "All right? You know, I can really improve things for you at work." But we politely turned down his offer. In a fit of rage, Sean doused my wife's clothes in alcohol. The color of red wine damaged her lovely beige dress. There are things that are acceptable and things that are not, regardless of whether you are the son of a politician. "Calm down. Please apologize to my wife." I calmly asked an apology. Sean, though, just shrugged it off. "You know, I'm not simply a congressman's son. The Mafia is on my side, so I can do anything I want and not be caught. I'm unbeatable," he declared, laughing victoriously. I gave a slender smile in response, saying, "Oh, really? Which company are you referring to? Please bring them here." The mob he discussed is, in fact, I'm 33 years old, named Rick, and I work as an accountant. The reason I say supposed to be is that there's a little backstory. Being raised by a strict father, I received instruction in academics, martial arts, manners, and other subjects from an early age. I completed my undergraduate studies and graduate school studies overseas. I started an accounting company when I got back home. Even though our office is modest, we have a lot of clients, including politicians, and we seem to be doing well. I got married not long after I opened the accounting office. I am Gabriella, and she is the woman who became my wife. She is gorgeous, as her name implies. I met Gabriella while studying abroad, just by being there, and I remember being speechless when I first saw her because of how beautiful she was. She was gorgeous, stylish, and petite. I honestly didn't think I had ever seen someone more lovely. I could say this about myself, but I have a fairly ordinary appearance. I have an average build, am neither exceptionally attractive nor ugly, and lack any standout traits. However, I also see that as my tool in my profession. Unless it's absolutely required, it's best to blend in. That's my opinion. However, I really wished I had the stunning good looks of a Hollywood actor when I met Gabriella. And at this point, I'm happily married to Gabriella. Indeed, there is mystery involved in life. It has been 7 years since our marriage. We live in harmony, but we haven't had any children yet. Once, a politician client of ours sent an invitation to a party. It was the politician's birthday party, not one of those fundraising events that are frequently discussed. Being a politician, it was meant to be a very private affair, but it ended up being rather a spectacular affair. Gabriella wore a frock to the event, and I was dressed in a luxury suit. Gabriella was attracting attention from everyone around her as soon as she got out of the car, even if I, in my suit, might have gone unnoticed. Considering that she is my pride and joy, it seems sense. I wore silver-rimmed glasses and masked a proud shine behind them. Gabriella's dressed down today with a simple beige outfit. Since she isn't the major character of the event, it's a decision that won't stand out too much, but can still add some personality to the setting. The dress has a bare shoulder, strapless design. To match the dress's beige color, this skirt's length falls below the knees. She's sporting modestly high shoes with a simple design. She paired it with a short top made of airy chiffon fabric, even if it still looks too simple. I know I'm going into a lot of detail, but Gabriella is the source of all of this. She's forced me to study a lot of subjects, but I'm definitely not an expert on women's fashion. After all, these items have a tendency to become outdated really rapidly. Gabriella claims that it's meant to provide a sheer effect, but all I can say is that she always looks stunning in dresses. Gabriella's gorgeous, flawless shoulders peek out from under the skimpy top. Gabriella's bright complexion is only partially visible due to the fluffy layer over her elegant dress, resulting in an exquisitely stunning silhouette. It looks rather seductive up close, but Gabriella looks classy today because her hair is dressed in a simple curling manner and her makeup is muted. I tell Gabriella, "You look amazing," as always, after she gives me a last look at home. I'm genuinely impressed. Oh, please. Husbandry is the only thing flattery will get you. Gabriella corrects me as she approaches me for a quick embrace. She is flawless in every manner. That, my wife, is the kind of lady I still find unbelievable. Should we leave now? You'll undoubtedly be the life of the party at the location as well. That isn't acceptable. Michael and his family are the stars of today. Gabriella whispers, entwining her arm with mine, "Remember that." Despite dressing with such thoughtfulness, Gabriella nonetheless managed to attract notice. They would have looked like stars on the red carpet if she had been accompanied by a man of Hollywood caliber. Sadly, beside her, I'm just me, and for the moment, I'm thankful for that normalcy. After all, Gabriella really is that radiant. We were given name tags at the reception after introducing ourselves. I attached Gabriella's to her gown and fastened mine to the chest pocket of my suit. I don't mind at all. At parties, name tags on suit chest pockets are rather standard. However, Gabriella's flawless outfit appeared incomplete without a name tag. I had to let out a little sigh. Gabriella chuckled softly, obviously knowing why I was sighing. Firstly, we went to wish a happy birthday to today's star, Congressman Michael Simmons. Thank you, Michael, for extending an invitation to this happy occasion. Happy birthday. Well, Rick, I appreciate you and your wife coming. And Gabriella, you usually look amazing, but you really do look amazing today. Did you wear this outfit to my celebration? As a formality, Michael complimented Gabriella, but his genuine expression was evident in his eyes. Michael, you really do have a charming personality. I'm grateful. Gabriella grinned broadly and said, "Today's attire is for you and your supportive family." She then turned to welcome Michael's wife, who was standing next to him. Michael's spouse was once an actress, so she's not exactly a starring lady, but you would probably recognize her name if you heard it. Her notoriety grew when she married Michael, a rising politician at the time. After being married, she left the entertainment business and is now known for being the loving spouse of a well-known politician. She is still very beautiful even at 50. Gabriella took great care in selecting her response to Michael so that nobody would misinterpret her. Such exquisite thoughtfulness. We greeted Michael and his spouse and then interacted with the guests at the standing celebration. Gabriella wouldn't stick out more than she already did with this. I sighed with relief, allowing my shoulders to drop a little. I made the decision to mix in with the large group of people and take my time enjoying the party till it ended. We made our way around the tables, which were covered in a variety of delicacies, and took our plates to a table that looked appropriate. "How about beverages?" Gabriella stated. I think we should probably avoid alcohol today, but her eyes remained focused on the drink counter. Despite what she says, Gabriella likes to drink a lot, especially on days like this. Fine beverages are constantly available in a selection. She probably wants to experience variety in her heart. It wouldn't hurt to have a little. Well, but even so, everything should be all right as long as we don't go overboard. Hold here for a little while. After saying that, I moved to the counter, and Gabriella gave me a playful tongue out. She has these beautiful moments that I admire, despite the way she looks. I chose a drink haphazardly that I thought Gabriella would like. If we could sample a little bit of each, that would be great. I can complete the remainder. I placed my order at the bar counter and was served whiskey on the rocks and a late white wine. Right today, this whiskey is quite well liked all over the world. What was formerly easily obtained at neighborhood booze stores has grown rare and expensive. But this place had lots of that special whiskey. That is one formidable politician, in fact. Well, I might as well take use of it while it's here. A tiny taste like this is ideal, since I simply want to enjoy the flavor of the alcohol, not get wasted. Just as I turned to go back to Gabriella after taking the glasses, I heard some noise. Gabriella felt as though someone was disturbing her. I felt bad leaving her by herself. Someone with bad intentions would inevitably take advantage of her beauty and approach her. I knew the man who was stirring up problems by looking at his face. Sean, the oldest son of Michael, was waiting for Gabriella to be by herself. "Are you the wife of Rick?" "Indeed, I am." "Exactly right. Together, let's take a drink." Gabriella deftly sidestepped Sean's attempt to place a familiar hand on her shoulder. "I apologize, but I don't drink much." "It's okay if you are unable to drink. Next, pour for me." With both hands holding drinks, he was mistreating Gabriella so cruelly. I quickly returned to Gabriella. "Rick," Gabriella saw that I had returned. "Pardon me, did my wife act rudely toward you?" Although I am aware that there hasn't been any rudeness, the individual in question is a client's kid. It is imperative that you treat the matter with civility. "No. It seems that your wife's statement that she couldn't drink was a lie when I asked her to join me for a drink." When Sean saw the glasses in my hands, he gave off a disgruntled face and remarked, "So, no, it's not a lie. She is allowed to drink, but we decided it would be better to limit our intake today, so we are just having a tiny taste." Oh, Sean gave me a doubtful glance before returning his attention to Gabriella. "It seems like she is too good for you. How could such a beautiful woman come into the world for a plain, uninteresting guy like you who might be anywhere?" I was a little hesitant to answer at first. His comment wasn't wholly unwarranted. Yes, in any case, I'm just a dude with nothing special about him. On the other hand, Sean's looks alone may make him appear attractive to everyone. Tall and thin, with a build that makes it seem like he exercises. His arms and chest are toned, just like his stunning mother. Do you not think that I'm tens of times more appropriate for her beauty than someone like you, gentlemen? Indeed, if appearances are all that matter, Sean may be a better fit for Gabriella than I am, but only if that's the case. Hey, how about I take your wife for a bit? You know how much better I can make things at work for you." Then Sean put out a ridiculous suggestion. Isn't it a good deal? A mutually beneficial outcome. Isn't it the best course of action? No, I'm grateful. Before he could finish, Gabriella responded instantly, cutting him off. I also decline. I said, emulating Gabriella. Sean's jaw opened and closed in shock as his face flushed red. Most likely, he wasn't prepared for a rejection. He must have intimidated people weaker than him in the past by employing similar strategies. Sean suddenly did what came naturally to him. "You're just the accountant's wife. You don't have the right to act so haughtily because of it." And with that, he doused Gabriella's outfit in wine. There was a red wine stain on her beige outfit. There are things that are acceptable and things that are not, regardless of whether you are Michael's kid. Please give my wife your apologies. Trying not to get too angry, I calmly sought an apology from Sean, but he just laughed at us and carried on. It's not only that my dad is a congressman, you know. I'm supported by some pretty tough folks. Is that accurate? Sean said, "Let me explain it to you," as if my comment had incited him. Gentlemen, don't panic. Since my dad has the Mafia on his side, I'm the strongest person here. As though he was amused by his own remarks, Sean laughed at them. Oh my goodness. Which company are you referring to? Please bring them here. I smiled back, just as thinly as Shan did. What, you doubt me? No, not at all. I'm only saying that I'd like to meet those harsh folks you mentioned. Sean seemed to get even angrier as I forced a calm grin on my face. All right, later on, you come to regret this. Come on. Sean gave an order to someone in his group to go tell his father something. Though Sean doesn't exactly have a stellar reputation, he is frequently mentioned as Michael's successor apparent. It's actually pretty awful. With his parents' prestige at his disposal, he can do anything he wants. Even though it seems like his parents are always putting out flames that he ignites, they are unable to stop people from speaking. Even some Michael supporters publicly express their dislike for Sean being Michael's heir. His relationships with women are particularly flashy, and there are reports that he has paid women multiple times to keep their relationships a secret. I've also heard similar tales. Although Sean lacks authority, his parents do, and they are supported by strong individuals. Those factors must lead him to believe that he is in a position of authority. It's obvious that person is the lion's hide. Sean prompted his minion, who immediately ran to Michael and probably performed a dance they had practiced numerous times before. It was a very amazing demonstration of cooperation. While I was thinking about it, Gabriella quickly grabbed the 2 glasses from me and threw a lot of white wine over the stain of red wine on her dress. Sean was clearly taken aback by this sudden action. Did you know you can dilute a red wine stain with white wine? After saying that, Gabriella took a sip of the whiskey on the rocks. Yum. This is premium whiskey, which is becoming harder to find these days. Michael is a really knowledgeable person. Gabriella raised her glass in a toast, only her eyes still in it, and grinned prettily at Sean. Sean was motionless as if he were a statue, unable to say anything. Sean was probably expecting us to be scared and paralyzed by his remarks as a pair, so he was caught off guard by Gabriella's actions. Most likely, he was unable to understand what was going on. I feel like the whiskey is getting to me a little. The temperature is rising. Please pardon me for a second, Gabriella murmured, passing me the glass before beginning to take off her jacket, which was smeared with wine. Then her shoulders showed off their sheen. Her flawless white complexion drew Sean in, but something else started to show on that flawless skin. What's that? The shapes began to take on color, and before long, Gabriella's right shoulder had raised carvings that revealed a gorgeous red rose. Raised tattoos, also called tatos or ink, are the name given to this method. Insiders call them carvings. These crimson, rose-adorned carvings stretched from Gabriella's right shoulder down her back and to her left. Sean appeared to comprehend, albeit in a weak way, that a woman with such tattoos was not your typical person. His skin became pallid. Gabriella gave Sean a heavenly being-esque smile as she raised the hem of her suit a little to reveal the rose on her left thigh. Though I felt that someone like him didn't need to be given such a show. But Sean's already pale complexion went absolutely white at that fleeting glance, leaving a lasting impression. By then, Michael had realized what was going on and came running over to us. Hey, Rick. My son has reportedly caused some difficulty. Michael was sweating profusely, much of it from cold sweat. Joan, what have you done? Well, Michael's hard stare made Sean shudder. Until now, he'd probably been indulged, getting away with anything. It was most likely the first time he had ever seen his father looking like this. It's nothing major, Michael. It was only a wine spill by accident by the young master. That's all, a smiling Gabriella said. Yes, that isn't very important. Just a small slip-up, something like from a kid. Yes, just that. However, the thing that worries us is what the young master stated afterwards. We've heard your son brag about having tight relationships with some tough people. We're interested in finding out who they could be. We are eager to meet them. Michael and Sean looked to shake even more at our remarks. Maybe Sean was beginning to see me for who I truly was. Michael said, "I'm so sorry," with genuine regret. It's an oversight on my part. I'll instantly correct his behavior. I urge you, please be generous. His speech faltered and became unintelligible. Michael told his secretaries to take Sean away, meaning to hide him from view. Now, it's a family affair. Gabriella, I think it's time for us to part ways. Yes, that seems likely. Gabriella concurred, and we got to enjoy some fine wine. We left Michael to finish up and departed the venue. I was the tough person Sean was referring about. I manage an accounting firm on the outside, but I'm part of the financially literate mafia behind closed doors. Upon my birth, my father, seeing the Mafia world was unsustainable, put me through a rigorous training regimen to become his heir. Gabriella hails from a family of Mafia members as well. Her father was a Mafia member in the past, but appears to have realized that things couldn't stay that way. By marrying their children to each other, our dads both placed a wager on our marriage's ability to survive. Our marriage and meeting happened abroad as a result of several domestic issues. In essence, it was a political union. But Gabriella captured my heart right away, not just because of her beauty, but also because of her vivacious personality. She was, as we had all seen previously, a genuinely lovely woman in my opinion. At first, Gabriella wasn't very excited about it. She had a thing for the traditional Mafia movie tough guys. She so reluctantly agreed to the marriage to me for the benefit of her family and the organization. But as we became closer and spent more time together, she also developed a deep affection for my inner self. Although Rick has a civil servant's exterior, he harbors a mafioso's spirit. We became a madly in love pair as a result of what she would say, ostensibly complimenting me. We now find it impossible to envisage our lives apart, especially given how deeply we love one another. What we hate most are people like Sean, small-time pikes. Because we are aware of exactly what the name Mafia signifies, we never cause harm to common people. However, someone without any authority of his own like Sean often uses the assistance of others to tread on others. Michael retaining an heir similar to him. Their future is not what we perceive. Gabriella entwined her arm with mine and added, "You know, in fact, but maybe we should give him a chance." "Once," responded I. "We've known each other for a long time after all." We watched closely to see what Michael would do next. Gabriella continued. Sean went into a sick spell shortly afterward and withdrew from society. Most likely, it's merely a front. Michael designated his heir to be a secretary. Sean is the lone heir for the Simmons family. They have 2 daughters, and it appears that the eldest and the secretary will get married. I wonder what this secretary is like, thought Gabriella. He's a really remarkable person. I told her that there had been discussions for some time that he might make a fine heir. So the only question is if the oldest daughter can grow to love him, Gabriella thought, her countenance softening a little as though she was thinking back to her own experiences. I'm lucky to have married someone I love so dearly, but I would have felt sorry if that weren't the case, she said. I have the same emotions. Although Gabriella is here, so that makes me glad, but who knows how things may have gone otherwise. In expressing my truth, I admitted it. I would have married for the benefit of my family and organization, and would have taken care of my wife, even if Gabriella hadn't been my partner. It remains to be seen, though, if I would have experienced such happiness. Right, and even if the person was wonderful, if the chemistry wasn't there, it just wouldn't work, said Gabriella. Yes, I said. Gabriella wished for the secretary and the oldest daughter, saying, "May those 2 cherish each other and find lasting happiness." We wish for the continued prosperity of the Simmons family as well as the happiness of the new heir pair. This is so because these desires are intertwined with our organization's strong bonds and with our own promising future. I said, "Gabriella, we also need an ear." Gabriella put her head softly on my shoulder and reddened like the wine of that day at that moment.